nice to see you guys and girls. What do you know about me? Anything? Are you sure? Yeah, that's it. No, I'm actually very proud to be here because you guys and girls, you know, you love what you're doing. I think the most important thing is follow your heart, do what gives you a buzz. Anyway, let's push a button, see what happens. I see. Try again. Aha, there we go. We've got a screen here, haven't we? I can look at.
Here. You can see through here too.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, there you go.
When you reach my age. It's called age concern. Death is my next big event. Here we go. Right, so push the button. I see it says on the back of this excellent book, the key to success is to risk thinking unconventional thoughts. Convention is the enemy of progress. As long as you've got slightly more perception than the average rat loaf, you can actually invent something. Now, put it aside, we are all inventors, all right? Everybody seems to think you have to have a Viennese accent and see broken glasses, you know, got to have an anorak, you've got to be a fruitcake. Well, we all have a measure of that in us anyway. No, but it is important to realize that we're all capable of doing the most extraordinary things. Now, you probably know already, but what do you think I did for a living? Come on. Come on, anybody? Part of it, yeah. Right, we'll start at the beginning, right? I was born in 1937, and they tell me I was so ugly, the midwife slapped my mother, and not me. Right, here we go. Here we go. These are the early days. Now, when I was a lad, I used to, well, during the war, every night was firework night, and we used to and we used to swim in the old canal, unbeknown to my parents, in the Grand Union. And swimming became my first love. That led me on to find myself swimming, believe it or not, for Middlesex, Southern Counties, and Great Britain. I became a comedy diver. You see some of the things up there that I used to do. I became a tumbler, and I found myself doing stunt work. Next one. When I did my national service, in those days, we all had to do it, whether we liked it or not. They made me a physical training instructor. So it was 2 of the wall bars, go, round my sweaty vest, run, right? But I thoroughly enjoyed myself while I was in there. And then when I came out, I thought it would be great because by this time I was an engineer, having worked in the laboratory as a laboratory assistant. I thought it'd be nice to combine my knowledge of mechanical and structural engineering with swimming, my first love. And I formed my own company, which is called Shotline Swimming Pools, and I installed over 300 swimming pools, would you believe it, in schools all around Britain and overseas, mainly freestanding, like the one you see there. Perfect for kids to learn to swim. I think every student in the land must be taught to swim, right? Absolutely essential. You never know when you might fall overboard. Right, now because I was keen on swimming and diving, I was always a show-off. And there we are, doing a belly flop into a pool. But this is the thing that came into it. I suddenly found myself doing the most extraordinary things. I became a stuntman working with Peter Cook, Dudley Moore, Dave Allen, Dave Nixon, all that lot. But I then was very fortunate in 1970 to do an underwater escape act in a Berlin circus at the Deutschlandhalle in Berlin. And the extraordinary thing was, and in those days the money I got for that, which was £350 a day. Now in those days, for 18 days work, that was mega money, 1970. I was able then to buy a plot of land where I live on Eel Pie Island, which is in Twickenham, and literally build the house of my dreams, which of course has now got an indoor swimming pool, right? A hot tub, a boat, and you ask yourself, well, what else do you want? And of course a workshop, boys' toys and all that. Now, when I was in the circus, at the Deutschlandhalle, I had a very emotional affair with the most gorgeous girl who was from Vienna, Johannesstrasse 225. She was an aerial ballet star. She and I were very close without getting too complimentary. No, but this dear girl, she fell off the rope, bounced off the net, hit the side, and she died. This was halfway through the show. And it broke me. I was in absolute tears. Then you start to realize that disability is only a banana skin away. And that inspired me then to have a go. Now, what I'd like to do is get all the students in the land to go through a peculiar procedure. I got a neighbour of mine to help me. I put my dominant hand in my pocket, and he put a belt round me, and then I walked around for an hour to see what it's like to only have one arm. You say, God, how do I open a can? How do I cut a bit of wood? How do I, all those things that you and I take for granted. Now, I think every student in the land should endure 1 hour of punishment like that so that they know psychologically what it's like to have lost a limb, all right? It could be, they might hate it, but you've got to remember, I did 2 years national service, whether I liked it or not. But I grew up very quickly while I was in there. Anyway, this led on to me making a whole range of products, over 200 products for the disabled. One-handy bottle openers, foot-operated scissors, you name them, and they could all be retrofitted onto tables, to chairs, the bedside, on the wall, wherever, to enable you, and you see a few examples up there, to do the most extraordinary things. You can modify everyday things to make them work. Incidentally, when I was a child, during the war, my father taught me to use a Meccano set, and that stayed with me all my life. By the time I was 5 or 6, I could do the most extraordinary things with my Meccano, and yet I couldn't write my name, right? But I knew the difference between nuts, bolts, screws, washers, and so on and so forth. And this helped, believe it or not, later on in life, which I'll come to. Now, one of the products you didn't know about is that I made a thing called an electric shoe. I've got it in the case outside, but it's not here. Basically, it's this. I walked across the Namib Desert using a piezoelectric device. Every time I put my foot down, I could produce a small amount of energy, which would top up my mobile phone. Now, if we could do this properly with new technology, which you guys are so good at, we could find yourself then in a situation where you could use a mini computer out in the middle of nowhere. So even if the sun isn't out and you haven't got a solar system, you can still generate enough electricity. In fact, when I walked Princess Diana when she was around, when I walked across in the middle of the desert for the Mines Advisory Group, I was able to phone Richard Branson on my mobile phone out in the middle of nowhere, purely and simply on the energy stored whilst I was walking across the desert. Next one. Now, this is an expression I believe in. Chance favours the prepared mind. Very often, you don't know. I don't get up in the morning and say I'm going to invent something, right? What tends to happen is you have an accident or something goes wrong, and then instinctively you do something. Or what tends to happen is to say, oh, well, it must have been done before. You do nothing about it, and the next thing you know, boom, boom, it's done, all over and dusted. But the important thing is that you guys and girls have got to know about the importance of intellectual property. You can read this on the internet. I don't want you to be bored rotten, but fundamentally it's this. If you file for a patent, you might have to employ a patent attorney. He or she could charge you as much as £350 an hour, right? And people could spend as much as £10,000 securing their intellectual property, only to find that someone in Timbuktu has nicked it. Now, how are you going to find him or her or the company and take them to court? I want UK PLC to stand behind the lone inventor. I want the theft of intellectual property to become a white-collar crime. Excuse me. If I was to nick your car, which is only worth 10,000 quid, right? Well, I could be sent to jail. But if I was to nick your intellectual property, which you might spend 100,000 quid on, you have to make your own arrangements. Now, it's absolutely disgusting. There's no point in having that. I'm talking about patents now because copyright and many other things are freebies anyway. Anyway, let's not bore you rotten. Move along. The thing is, there we are. A patent could cost you. How much would you have paid to protect these inventions? Here we go. How about that, ladies? No, I don't know. Is it essential for, I mean, I don't know. I think she looks very elegant. No, but these are the sort of things that people come up with. What about this one here? Right? Health and safety would like that. Huh? As long as you've got somewhere to put the snot bag, you know what I mean? How about this one? You ask yourself this too, right? Dead sheep in formaldehyde or a paperclip, what's more important? And yet nobody seems to know who invented the paperclip. Sometimes you spend £1 million or £2 million on a painting, right? Which is not yours, but you can go and see it. And yet none of us seem to know who invented the paperclip or the penknife. You know, so many products that you and I take for granted, and the people who actually came up with the idea don't get any credit for what they've done, which is disgusting. Art is pleasure, invention is treasure, all right? Now, I'm a lucky boy because of my invention and many other things. Now, I've got, 12 doctorates now, 5 masters, this, that, and the other, right? Now, it would take me about 4,000 years to get all those awards, right? All I've really got is GCE football, and the only reason why I got that is I let them use my jacket as a goalpost. Do you understand me? No, but the thing is, you see, society have paid me a credit, which is wonderful. Now, all inventors should be treated in the same way, because sometimes it's the simplest of ideas that can change all our lives, socially and commercially. Now, for me, it's not just about money. It could be social. For instance, you might come to me with a most peculiar walking stick, right? And why is that? It's because you've got a terrible deformity. Oh, thank God I can walk. Then you look around, do a Google search to find there's only 10 people with the same, disfiguration. So what? We'll make 10 walking sticks. You change the life of 10 people. So it's not purely and simply about money. The ideal thing, of course, is social as well as commercial. Here we go. Now, this chap here, when people ask me, is my favourite inventor. So Frank Whittle, or Frank Whittle as he was, in 1930, when he was 21, coming up to 22, he invented the jet engine. He went to the chief government scientist who turned him down. I've got a copy of his letter at home, right? And when you consider how this man has changed all our lives, both socially and commercially, I was very honoured to participate in an advert, a one-to-one advert. Let's see if it works. There we are.
I'd like to have a one-to-one with Sir Frank Whittle,
the inventor of the jet engine. I'd ask him if he knew just how commercially successful it would turn out to be.
See, Frank?
And what drove him to keep at it when the government ignored him for 10 years? What kept him going?
Most of all, if I could have a one-to-one with Frank Whittle,
I'd ask if he thought his success was worth all that struggle.
One-to-one. Our mobile phone service gets business talking.
Now, you just think about Frank, right? If we'd listened to Frank Whittle all those years ago in 1930, and had our brave Commonwealth pilots been flying, not Spitfires and Hurricanes, well, they could have been flying those as well, been flying jet planes, then World War II could have been World War I.5. But because of that idiot, the chief government scientist, as he called himself, ignoring what Frank had to say, the Germans picked up on the patent, and it was either them or us. Fortunately, we were winning the war by the time they got their jet plane off the deck. However, just think of that amazing man, a 22-year-old boy, right? So we've got to remember that invention is, as I say, a treasure. Next. Now, here's an extraordinary chap, Percy Shaw. Now, in the good old days, or the bad old days, shall we say, when you were out cycling, the only way you could get home is because when the moon came out, you used to reflect on the tram lines, right? And so cyclists would come along. And one day, Percy was out there on his bike, and by chance, his light picked up on the cat coming towards him. And that's how the cat's eyes were created. Now, my contention is this. Had the cat been going the other way, he would have invented the pencil sharpener. Anyway. Right, next. Sorry, ladies. Now, a lot of people say to me about the clockwork radio, tell us about it. Well, you know, that expression I've used, chance favours the prepared mind. I was at home, I could have been watching Come Dancing or The Golden Shot or something, but I happened to be watching a program about the spread of HIV, AIDS in Africa. And the only way they could stop this dreadful disease killing all these people was literally through education, which could be best brought to these people through the radio. But most of Africa didn't have electricity at that time, and the only other form of electricity was in the form of batteries, which were horrendously expensive. People were bartering their maize and their rice in order to obtain batteries. And where do you get batteries up the Wadi Tharthar? Even now, batteries, when you look at them, you don't know if they're alive or dead, which is disgusting. By now, they should have designed batteries so that they change colour. You know, if it's gone yellow, it means it's dead. You get my drift. Anyway, so I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about the old time. Let's push the button again. There I am, sitting there, smoking my pipe, of course. There we go. And I'm listening, and I'm thinking to myself, the old-fashioned gramophone. You know, when you think about it, if you can get all that noise by dragging a rusty nail around a piece of old Bakelite using a spring, surely there's enough power to produce enough energy to drive a cheap transistor radio, which is what I did. And by this time, because I've always had my Meccano, you can't see this from where you are. However, I improvised a device, and here it is here, and literally the keys in my thing. But it's a clockwork device which can generate enough electricity and tell me just how much voltage is coming through the machine. So that came from there. But prior to that, what I did is got a small DC motor, which I put into the hands of a hand brace, and then connected 2 wires to the back of a cheap transistor radio. I turned the handle, it didn't work. I turned it the other way, and then it did. Boom, boom. Away we went. And so then I knew it was essential that I filed for a patent, which is what I did, fortunately. And I made a prototype. And then BBC picked up on it, and everybody went wild for it. And I was very, very honoured because I was asked by the British Council to go around the world. I spent the day, would you believe it, with Nelson Mandela in his house in Pretoria. What a wonderful man. Here's a chap who spent 18, 19 years, as it were, on Robben Island. You know, he could have hated every white man on this earth, and who would have blamed him? Huh? And there, boom, boom. Right, he said, come on, Trev, let's go for it. I was very honoured because the King and Her Majesty and Prince Philip invited me for lunch, would you believe, with Nelson Mandela at the palace. And I got the letter of him, you know, and I thought, gosh, you're a lucky boy, Trev. And as a result of that, of course, the Tomorrow's World programme, it all went out. And then all those people, including the Design Council and so many other people who turned me down, right, they all started to phone up and say, no, we didn't mean that, Trev, you know, bastards. Anyway, excuse my language, it's improving. Wait a minute. So look, there's my prototype, and there's the actual, you can see the actual patent number and so on. And that was in 1991. Doesn't seem possible, does it? All those years ago. And here we are now, all those years later, still talking about something that any of you guys and girls could have done yourselves. There we are, early days in Africa. Can you imagine? They've got some lovely pictures. The other thing is, I don't throw anything away. You've got scrapbooks, I've got ego files. Do you understand me? So, you know, when anything comes on, I put it in the book. How are we doing time-wise, chaps? We're right, okay. Now, here we are, look. I went to every company I could think of with my patent and my prototype radio. The ones I remember most are Philips of Eindhoven, who actually, if you like, swiped the idea. Marconi, they did the same. The Design Council turned me down. And the DTI, I wasn't even smart enough to get the Smart Award. But, of course, when it all came out on the media, it all went the other way. We've got to do something. We've got to pay compliments to those ordinary men and women who can change all our lives, both socially and commercially. Now, here we are. This is that part from the Design Council. So I've got the evidence, if you like. I won't bore you by reading that. Right. Oh, here we go. Now, this is rather a lengthy letter, but fundamentally, this chap here, Ormston Chance, said it wouldn't work unless the spring weighed 100 weight, and that, you know, it just went on and on and on, and I've still got this on my toilet wall at home. I mean, what he says, you know, he said something about, I don't know if I can read it from there, but where are we? What does it say here? But best of all, he feels that the energy used in winding up a spring engine or in turning a dynamo by hand, etc., might today be more efficiently and compactly converted direct from the body heat of the radio user. Something on the lines of a thermocouple held under the armpit or between the thighs at the groin areas offering maximum body temperature, right? Take a thermocouple and stick it up your arse. I mean, can you? No, but I mean, you have to endure that sort of stuff, and you think, oh, God, you know. Now, the thing is, though, really, we have to bring invention as part of the national curriculum. Do any of you guys and girls know the name Mary Anderson? No? Do you know that is disgusting? And do you know why? In 1903, she invented the windscreen wiper. Now, we've all got windscreen wipers, but how many of us knew it was invented by a woman in 1903? That's disgusting, isn't it? Stephanie Kwolek, who invented Kevlar, an amazing woman, middle-aged lady. You think of how many people's lives have been saved as a result of that. This, of course, is the Design Council. Nelson Mandela said yes. I mean, I'm such a lucky boy, really. But the thing is, we have to make sure that students are taught about invention. That is essential. So we're almost there. Ah, here we go. In conclusion, may all your dreams be patentable. I think it was Michael Caine who said, I've been rich, I've been poor, rich is better. Not a lot of people know that. Thank you. Right.